Hello YouTube, it's the Magnum94 here, back with another stupid Nintendo article. This one is titled, Will Nintendo Switch be a game over? I'll just start reading real quick. The gaming world is abuzz over Nintendo Switch's official release, which is a little more than 2 weeks away. Oh my gosh, wow. That's crazy. Like, just something about playing or having the potential to play this thing in under a month is crazy to me, because like it always feels like ever since the NX was first revealed, it just kind of felt like, or I guess announced, it just kind of felt like the NX was just this thing that was just kind of always on the horizon that we're never actually going to get able to play. And then, wow, that's crazy. Like, I never like put it in perspective. It's only 2 weeks away. Anyway, let's keep going. But don't pop the champagne cork just yet. Most of the buzz comes in the air of skepticism, although many are still excited and hope for nothing but success for the longtime company. Most of the buzz comes with an air of skepticism, although many are still excited and hope for nothing but success for the longtime company. Maybe you should have said some are still excited, because many implies a majority. And so does most. But most can have skepticism, and at the same time another majority can have nothing but high praise. Am I just reading this wrong? Again, if someone in the comment section can tell me if I'm ever wrong in something like this, just tell me. But like, that wording is a bit weird for me personally. But yes, there is a lot of skepticism around the Nintendo Switch. But that is mostly because we don't have all the information yet. Like with Nintendo's online services, we don't really know everything that will entail. We don't necessarily even know the price of it yet. Amongst other things regarding the system, we're just not entirely sure. Namely, what games are going to be coming. People are skeptical that third parties are coming, yet it's been proven that and shown to us in that screenshot that third-party games are coming, especially indie games. And Koizumi said that third-party games will be coming. They haven't been announced yet. And there's been other things that people just kind of have baseless skepticism on, but for the most part, I personally feel like there's more excitement than skepticism personally, especially like me. Like I'm more excited for it than skeptical, but there definitely is reason to be skeptical. This is a very different console, period, but it's also a different take on a Nintendo console. So let's continue. To have a healthy suspicion about any new console makes sense, especially concerning Nintendo. Oh my gosh. Just because the Wii U flopped does not give you reason to hate on every single thing Nintendo does. Why do people feel like that's the thing? Why did people basically have baseless praise for the 360 when the original Xbox barely sold 22 million? It barely beat the GameCube, and that's even debatable. And the GameCube at that point was considered a flop. So you're comparing. So you're saying that. Do you get my point there? Like, I don't feel like. Yes, you should have suspicion going to any console, but I just kind of, in general, feel like people go way too deep on skepticism and suspicion with Nintendo consoles. Pretty much everyone had nothing but praise for the PS4. There was basically no negativity towards that system at all. I mean, I can't say the same for the Xbox One, of course, because that had all kinds of problems. So why are you saying especially Nintendo, when it seems like Microsoft, of the 3 times, they not failed 2 out of 3, but they did subpar 2 out of 3 times? whatever, let's just keep reading. For many gamers, the Wii U, Nintendo's 2012 console, was a financial flop compared to 2006's Wii. For many gamers, it was a financial flop. The Wii U just straight up was a flop, period. It did end up technically making the money in the end, but it definitely didn't sell well. I don't even think it's broken 14 million yet. So for many gamers, it was a flop. For many gamers, it was a financial flop. It would have been a more correct statement just to say the Wii U, Nintendo's 2012 console, was a financial flop. Especially compared to the Wii, which was a massive success. And you didn't even have to throw that part in. Just saying the Wii U was a flop is a correct statement. At least from the majority's point of view. Like I said, it did technically make money, but not nearly enough to not be considered a flop. But saying for many gamers, it was a financial flop. The gamers don't get that money. So saying it's a financial flop from the gamer's perspective, they're only thinking that because of what Nintendo said in their financial statements. And in general, the Wii U owners that I know, personally and across the internet, they're very happy with their systems. They appreciated the games. They didn't really mind they had some issues from time to time, but they were overall fine with the online bringings. Of course, they would have liked more, but what they got, they were okay with. Again, the games and the hardware they were fine with. They appreciated the innovation of the gamepad for what little we got of it. So, for the majority of gamers that I personally know who bought a Wii U, they really enjoyed it. So, yeah, you saying for many gamers it was a financial flop compared to the Wii is more wrong than right, in my opinion. But I'll just continue from there. And again, comparing it to the Wii, which is, I think, the third most successful console of all time. I think behind the PS2. I don't think it ever passed the PS1. I'm not entirely sure, though. It's either... Honestly, I don't remember how much the NES sold. It's either third or fourth, depending on how that's structured. I can't exactly remember. But considering the Wii is one of the most popular consoles of all time, of course it's gonna be a financial flop. The 3DS is a financial flop compared to the Wii. It sold 63 million. The N64, which I think 32. Yeah, that's a flop compared to the Wii. But N64 was considered a success by Nintendo. But yeah, I'll move on. Both the Wii and Wii U were released in November, about 6 years apart. Wii U sold 57,000 consoles in January 2013, according to this 2013 article on CNET.com. By comparison, Wii sold 435,000 consoles in January 2007, nearly 378,000 more consoles than Wii U. That is all correct. You are right with those numbers. The grumblings over Wii U ran the gamut, from some not liking the controller, to the price tag, to those who feel the console brought nothing new to the table. Which I personally didn't really understand. The only reason it didn't really bring anything new to the table is because Nintendo overestimated how much they thought the Wii U would do, so at first they didn't feel like they needed to try as hard, and they thought third parties would fill in the gaps. And if they had gone out of the gates with big games in the first 6 or even 12 months, I feel like the Wii U would have been much more successful. We would have gotten more games that would have utilized the gamepad more efficiently. We just didn't really get many of those outside of Splatoon, One-on-One. I guess Star Fox, technically that's not a good game. Yeah, not very many games by Nintendo really utilize the gamepad all that much. But if they had started off super strong, which clearly they didn't according to those numbers up there, which I'm pretty sure are at least moderately true, if they had started off much stronger, we would have gotten way more innovative and hopefully good games as opposed to the mini games and the like more filler games that we got towards the middle and even the end of the Wii U's life cycle. Like, we definitely wouldn't have gotten Wii Party U, Wii Sports U, Game & Watch, or Game & Wario, like, all these mini games and all the platformers and all the other just basically filler games we got, games that take maybe 4 months to make, if even. We wouldn't have gotten those games in the first year, and even into the next couple of years, had the Wii U started off stronger. So, yes, it really didn't overall innovate the way they would have wanted, but there's a lot of factors that went into that, almost none of which are applying to the Switch right now. Let's continue. Perhaps the biggest launch issue with the Wii U was its lack of video games, and as a gamer, I see a repeat with the Nintendo Switch, although I enjoyed the Wii U quite a bit. Honestly, I didn't really consider this until more recently. I've heard a couple of people from different sources like really talk about this. The Wii U's biggest problem at launch is that it had too many games. I think it launched with like 30 games. Almost all of them were third party. So because people didn't want to buy all 30 of those games at launch, along with Mario, along with Nintendo Land, along with Zombie U, along with Ninja Gaiden, or whatever other exclusives that were at launch, I can't even remember. Which I think Ninja Gaiden turned into a third-party multi-plot later on, but still. Like, there were so many games at launch, none of them sold very well. And because none of those games sold all that well at launch, people like EA and Ubisoft, they started dropping off support. Especially EA, they put out Mass Effect, FIFA, and Madden, all gimped ports. And right out of the gate, those didn't sell well because of that reason. They're like, oh, people who bought the system, if they bought like two exclusives and then maybe 1 or 2 third-party games. They weren't going to buy the gimped ports. They were going to buy the Call of Duties or Assassin's Creed, which actually were decent games on the system. So, yeah, again, like, I feel like I'm not going to damage control the Switch only having like 10 games at launch. I do feel like, especially for a March reveal, I feel like that's a decent amount. You do not want to go overboard like the Wii U did. That, of course, is just my opinion, but still, saying that the Switch is repeating the Wii U's mistakes in this situation aren't exactly true. Especially since the Wii U literally had 0 games between March and, I want to say, August or even September of that same year. No, August, because Monster Hunter came out in March, I believe, of 2013, and then Pikmin 3 came out in August, in America at least. So in America, there was no games for April, May, June, July, like almost 5 months. There were literally 0 games, except maybe indie games. And I don't even know if that much was true. So, saying that the Switch is repeating that same mistake is not true, because the Switch is having at least one big game, or one game period at least, every month throughout the entire year. Starting with 10 at launch, with a few more coming out later in March, and then Mario Kart 8 and a couple other in April, and then it goes on from there. So, yeah, I'll move on from this topic, but just people who were saying that the Switch is repeating the same mistake the Wii U did, having no games, simply is not true, because I don't have numbers down, but I'm almost positive that the amount of games that are in Switch's first 9 months are A, better quality, and B, are more abundant than the Wii U had in its first 2 years. Yeah. So does the Switch face the same harsh criticism and low sales numbers as its predecessor? The truth is too early to tell. Well, yeah, it's too early to tell if the Switch will face the same low sales numbers. It's not even out yet. If this article was released in like April, and the Switch had sold like less than 1 million, then yes, that would have been just fine. That would have been fine to include that. But saying that it's too early to tell if the Switch will have low sales number, or even the wording here, is it too early to determine if it has low sales numbers? It's literally impossible because it's not out yet. If anything, this is straight up wrong because the pre-orders are are through the roof. Every single time, even though people are saying, "Oh, don't buy the Switch sucks." There's so many things wrong with the Switch. Every single time, Best Buy or GameStop or whatever gets Switch pre-orders, they're gobbled up in less than a minute. 15 minutes on average. Especially on Amazon. Like, those things go off so fast. I haven't gotten one yet. I'm not so invested that I feel like I need to get one at launch. But, like, if I saw one at launch or saw a pre-order open at launch, I would probably, like, put money down for it. But I haven't yet because they always get gobbled up. So, I'll move on from that mess of a sentence. Here is a fact we do know. The Nintendo Switch is selling for $300 and is launching the same day as launches Zelda Breath of the Wild. Zelda series is regarded by many as one of Nintendo's most popular titles, following, if not tied with, the Mario franchise. I would probably say Mario is more popular, especially since he's literally called Mr. Video Game, and his games generally sell more. I think they always sell more than Zelda games, but still, like, yes, Zelda is like second or third most popular Nintendo franchise. I think it goes Mario, Pokemon, Zelda. So, yes. The game is absolutely stunning. The world is beautiful, expansive, and breathtaking, and developer Shigeru Miyamoto deserves a definite round of applause. Oh boy. Okay. Now, you're not wrong, as you say in this next sentence, that Miyamoto did in fact create the character, the original Zelda game. I believe he was lead developer up through Ocarina of Time, if I'm not mistaken, or at least co-developer. But then Majora's Mask and forward, Eiji Aonuma was the head developer of the Zelda series. So, this is just, maybe this is nitpicking, but your facts are wrong here, and Shigeru Miyamoto had nothing more than just an overseer job with Breath of the Wild. So, yeah, and then you go on to say that he also made Mario and Donkey Kong. Go figure. It's like, so what? I don't know. Again, I feel like this article would be like just overall a lot better and more potent if your wording was just a bit stronger and your facts were overall more sound, which I understand. Like, you can get things wrong from time to time, and like, maybe this is just your style, but for me personally, if I was on the fence about how to feel about the Switch, this article would not persuade me. At least I don't think, because your wording is a bit vague and wordy. It's just a bit weird. But yeah, I'll continue. When the game was first announced, fans of the series went berserk. So much of that, it's almost as if the true champion here is the console's launch title and not the console itself. People have been wanting this game ever since it was announced for the Wii U. People went out and bought a Wii U just so they could get Zelda. Now, granted, that wasn't very many people, but still, people did that. So, people were frothing at the mouth for the Switch even before Zelda was announced as a launch title. Many people were just assuming that, because rumors, were just assuming that Zelda wasn't even going to be at launch, and a lot of them were saying they were going to get it at launch anyway. So, yeah, I'm pretty... Not that this paragraph isn't necessarily wrong, but I feel like the hype for the game and the hype for the system, though they're related, in general, they're actually, like, they're separate, though related, if that makes sense. This could be a problem. While the game will, without a doubt, sell millions of copies, where does this leave Nintendo Switch? Does this mean an equal sale of Nintendo Switch? Not necessarily. Nintendo decided the new Legend of Zelda game should also be released on Wii U. This is good news for Wii U owners who may not have the money to throw out the new console, but bad news for the sales of the Nintendo Switch. At least that's my first thought. Yeah, I'll go more into this in the next couple paragraphs, but the Wii U did not sell very well at all. And that's largely due to the fact that Zelda hadn't come out yet. Zelda was first announced in 2014, saying it was going to be a 2015 game. Then it wasn't. And then it wasn't a 2016 game, it was a 2017 game. So it would be douchey of Nintendo at this point to just straight up not release it on Wii U. Those 13 million people who bought the Wii U, the majority of them hoping to play Zelda at some point on the Wii U, would feel gypped and betrayed by Nintendo if they didn't release it on Wii U. But I'll get back to that in just a minute. Think of it this way. Would you rather buy the latest installment of your favorite series for $60 or for $360? Many are in the first camp. Me, well, I'm in the second, but that's just how I am. Now, maybe he didn't mean it that smugly, but that's just how I interpreted it. But, like I said, Wii U did not sell very well. It sold 13.5 million units. I think maybe it's going to get up to 14, if it's lucky. That is nothing. That's nothing for any console, period. And also, the majority of people who heard of the NX, as soon as the NX was announced and then Zelda was delayed in 2016, there were instantly articles saying, "Oh, will Zelda be an NX title?" So a large portion of people who were going to get a Wii U just to play Zelda, they more than likely waited until they get the Switch so they could play Zelda. They're going to get a Switch specifically for that game. And the majority of people and I know a lot of people who have a Wii U who are going to get a Switch just so they can play Zelda, a better version of Zelda, on the go. So, saying that, basically what you're saying is because they're releasing Zelda Breath of the Wild on the Wii U, it's going to cut into the Switch's sales. Now, it very easily could to an extent at first, but those 13 million people who bought the Wii U, I'm going to say like 85% of those people are hardcore Nintendo fans. And a lot of those people are going to just simply transition over to the Switch. So saying that having Zelda on both systems will potentially cut into the Switch's launch is not entirely true, because the reasons I've already said. But and also, like, saying you're gonna buy, would you rather spend $360 to play Zelda? That's like saying you have a PS3. You could and you don't have The Last of Us yet. You could pay $60, or this is in 2013 when the game came out, or 2014, like when the year The Last of Us Remastered came out on PS4. You could spend $60 to get The Last of Us on PS3, or you could spend $460 and get it on the PS4. It's the same concept, where in actuality you spend $400 to get the system, and then $60 for the game, and then you keep getting games for that system, so it'll pay for itself, like, right? Whatever. Granted, Breath of the Wild looks leaps and bounds better on Nintendo Switch. Graphics alone may not be enough to have gamers go and buy an entirely new console. Should there be a button there? Granted, Breath of the Wild looks leaps and bounds better on Nintendo Switch. graphics alone may not be enough to have gamers go out and buy an entirely new console. Yeah, I feel like there should be a but in there. Or however, or something. Again, a bit wordy and a bit confusing. But I guess I kind of get what you're saying. Like, people who have a Wii U won't necessarily upgrade just to get a pretty looking Zelda. But then again, those, like I already said, like 85% of the people who have a Wii U are going to upgrade regardless. At least relatively soon after launch, if not at launch. So, and also it's also a handheld, so playing Zelda on the go is pretty intensive. Other than this title, other launch titles include Nintendo's new party game, 1-2 Switch. Other games like Just Dance 2017 and Skylanders Imaginators have niche audiences and are not Nintendo Switch exclusive launches. Both games are released last year on Wii U. That is true. But people aren't going to buy the Switch just to get Just Dance and Skylanders. Those are more so filler games, just to have to make it look like there's more at launch. Yeah, like, those aren't games people will buy a system for. Except maybe the Wii, like when Just Dance just came out, but even then, people didn't just buy the Wii to play Just Dance. They bought it for Wii Sports and then saw Just Dance with a thing, so then they got it for that. Yeah. If we want to be honest, this doesn't sound very exciting for a new console, except for Legend of Zelda. You're forgetting about Bomberman. Why does everyone forget about Bomberman? I've never actually played a Bomberman game before, but I've been very interested in the concept and the idea of that game. It just looked like a cool party game. Not even a party game, it looked like a cool game, period. So people are just like, oh, Zelda's the only launch game that matters. And there's plenty of other games out there. Bomberman, I Am Setsuna, what is it called? Binding of Isaac, basically the complete edition. All those 3 games, which I know I Am Setsuna is, I think, like 6 months old, or it's a couple of months old, but at the same time, it's still like the game that is there for, and Wii U owners who upgrade, they wouldn't be able to play those games. They wouldn't have been able to play I Am Setsuna, but now they will. Zelda's not the only game at launch that will matter. And that's also not the only game in March that will matter. There are plenty of other games coming out in March. Cyberclips, which I know I bashed in the past, but like after looking at word gameplay and hearing people's thoughts of it, it actually looks kind of interesting. It looks cute. It looks actually complex. Fast Race and RMX. Blanking on others, but I know there are others and that have been announced for March. Later this year, though, there are some titles that should generate excitement, like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade 2, Fire Emblem Warriors, and LEGO City Undercover. I want nothing but for Nintendo to succeed, but I have to admit, I'm worried how this console will hold out. I don't believe this is a strong batch of launch titles, but we'll have to see the Nintendo Switch's later titles as enough to make up for what happened with the Wii U. And it just kind of ends. Like, I don't really understand what this article was trying to say, other than the launch titles look a bit barren. When you leave out Bomberman and I Am Setsuna and Binding of Isaac, yeah, it's gonna look pretty barren. And also all the other games coming out in March, yeah, but considering how the title of this article is, Will Nintendo Switch be a game over? I was expecting like a big just oomph at the end saying something like, if Nintendo should, like, something along the lines of they should get their act together, they should have more games, or else it'll basically be another Wii U. Now, granted, I could have had an argument for that, depending on how they worded it, but it's almost weirder that they didn't put that in there, especially since that last paragraph is essentially what should conclude your entire article, and when your last paragraph is basically just saying you're not sure how it will do at launch, but you think it might do better throughout the year, that's not even close to what your title is. And again, you listed all these great games, Mario Kart, Super Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade, Fire Emblem, all these games, and that's not even all of them, aren't Splatoon 2, Street Fighter, Ultimate Street Fighter 2, or Street Fighter 2. But like, and Sonic Mania and Sonic 2017, like all these games that are coming for the system. Some of them I just mentioned were coming out near launch. All these games that are coming out will build up momentum until the holiday season. So, and there's also, like Koizuma has said, there's plenty of games that have not been announced yet. Plenty of games, first party and third party, that haven't been announced yet, and a lot of them, like he said, are going to come out this year. But that's this article. Like, overall, I just feel like it was strangely worded. It didn't quite get its point across as strongly as I would have wanted, as much as it probably should have. At least from what I saw, or at least how I read it. I very well just could have missed the point in there. He could have had a stronger tone when writing it in his head. It just didn't translate well onto the actual screen. But considering how the title is, will Nintendo Switch be a game over? It just, considering how you didn't really support it, it just kind of seems like that was just clickbait for you to read this not poorly constructed, but strangely worded, generally confusing, misinformed article. But yeah, so in the comments, just how do you think the Switch is going to do? Do you think it'll do well at launch just because of Zelda, or do you think that Zelda being released on Wii U will cut into the sales significantly? How well do you think it'll sell throughout the year? My guess is that by the end of 2017, it'll hit at least 7 million. That's a modest guess. It very well could hit more or hit less, but as long as it does more than 3.6 million, that's about what the Wii U did in its first 6 months. As long as it does better than that, I think we got a winner on our hands. So yeah, again, if you have any comments about this article, I'd love to have a conversation with you in the comments. But until then, I'll see you next time.